Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Episode 26, Interview with Tommy Davis, Part 1.
So anyway, it's just one of those things. Like, I don't know, man, I don't know why I'm here either, but I got to support my dog. I got to support my new apartment, right? So I made this decision. I'm responsible. I take responsibility.
Right.
So it sucked because now I have this puppy, and he lived by himself, and I worked all the time to support him. It was like counterintuitive. I'm like, okay, this kind of sucks. So it was really sucky for me to now get this new puppy that I love to death. Like, he was my best friend. I'm like, yay, I'm doing it, Took him everywhere with me. At that age, like I said, 19, 20, those are some fun times to be alive. Parties and friends' houses and fires and whatever. He was my buddy. Yeah. And took him everywhere. And then, and there were some times where he had to be in his crate for long periods of time. I was a dumb, young dude, and I didn't know. I didn't know exercise, and he was still a puppy. So I remember I took him everywhere I could because I felt bad. So I had this Jetta. I put him in the Jetta, and anyway, we went to my buddy's house, and I showed him to everybody because he was so cute. And this was about 5 months. He was about 5 months old, so he was like a medium-sized dog at this point. He's big, Saint Bernard. Dad was like 220, mom was like 180, so he was going to be big. And so I pulled up to my buddy's house, and I said, "Hey, man, I got my puppy." And this is like a family friend of mine that I'm like I said, my friends are my family. So I was like, "Hey, bring out your young brother and sister. I want to show him the puppy." He's like, "Hell yeah, that's cool." So he runs in and grabs him, and I come out. I go, "Look at Saint." His name is Saint. I go, "Look at Saint," and I open the door, and he was just flopped over this way, and his gums were flipped back, and they were like, he was like this
Upside down.
And then he ended up just having hypoxic, like he just died.
Oh my
like,
God,
right there.
no. I thought he was just looking cute. Oh
no, man. So I grabbed him, and I grabbed him, and like his gums were purple. So like he was flipped back like weird, like a dog wouldn't do that, right? Like, like
did
flipped.
he like flop
So
out of the car? Like if he was...
No, he flopped on the ground,
like
on the floorboard,
not on the seat.
Yeah, on the floorboard, and his back was like hunched over like the middle thing.
I see what you're saying.
And his gums were flipped open, and they were blue, like gray blue. So I'm like, and they're like, and I grab him and I get him out, and I just lay him on the ground, and he's just like kind of twitching, and I was like, still traumatizing, as you can imagine.
Right.
My whole life has been
caring for this dog.
Yeah, for like my whole life has been like going against the grain. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get this dog. I'm gonna prove to everybody, like, and I love him. He's my best friend. I've been busting my ass. I feel really bad that I don't get to hang out with him a lot because I have an apartment. Right. He dies. I get him out of the car, put him on the ground. The dad comes out. He's like, "Oh, where's this puppy?" I'm like, he's dead." And he's like, he starts laughing, and I'm like, "No, he's dead. I don't," and I'm freaking, right? I'd never forget it. It was just traumatic. So it just sucks, man. Just a really, really sucky thing. And so I loaded, and luckily there was a emergency vet down the road, probably 5 miles at the end of the town. Okay. I loaded him in. My buddy gets in, and I go just like, I'm going 100. I'm running red lights. I'm swerving. My buddy's sitting there like holding on for dear life. And I'm telling him, I'm like, is he breathing? Is, just like, what's going on? Is he breathing?
Give me an update.
Yeah. Like he's like, I don't know, and I'm just freaking out. And then his parents ended up calling the vet, and they're like, "Hey, I called him. They know you're on your way, blah, blah, blah." I get there. I give him, hand him over. He's dead.
Damn.
So, So, that's what really started. Like after that, I was depressed. At 19, 20 years old, I was depressed. I was like, okay, and for me, guys, like hindsight, macro level is like, I think everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And at that time, I couldn't grasp that. I couldn't believe that. No. Why does God hate me? Why would he take away the only thing that I have? So it was traumatic. I was crying for days. Not only just did my dog die at 5-6 months, but he died traumatically in my back seat. And at the time, like hindsight, he was trying to get up front to me, and I remember keep pushing him back. So something was going on. And they don't know if it was like cardiac arrest or whatever, but I didn't want them to like do an autopsy on my puppy. I was like, no, he's gone, like whatever. So, fast forward a couple months, you know, I was me and I have a brother too. And me and my brother were chilling, and he was just like, you know, kind of, cause he's 5 years older than me. So he was like already in college doing his thing. He said, what do you want to do, man? I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, what do you like? I was like, I really like dogs. I mean, that's my passion. I mean, because I remember the question again vividly. He's like, what would you want to do? What would you be excited about waking up every day and doing? You know, because he was already in the college gig, so he's already signed his name off. You know, he was already gone. Right. So I said, I'd really like to work with dogs. I said, that's my passion. You know, Saint died traumatically. I want to give back as much as I can. And so I started a dog walking business because I remember thinking, how can I start a business that would kind of give back to Saint's memory, if you will, like, you know, as much as I can. And so I started a dog walking business because I was like, you know, if I had a dog walking business, or if I knew that there was dog walking businesses around, I would have hired a person to come let him out. Because now there's all this guilt, right? Like there's this dog, he literally laid in the garage or in the crate his whole life, and then he died. I mean, what a piece of crap I am. So, you know, it sucked. It was really traumatic. And so, yeah, so I started my business with nothing. I mean, I've told this story a couple times, but, you know, everybody made fun of me except like 2 people. My dad supported me. My mom was like, this is a terrible idea. You're not going to get paid to pick up dog poop. You know, so just not a lot of support. All my friends were like, you know, 20, 19. They were going to college, partying, and I'm sitting here trying to start a business. And this was 13 years ago now. And I was like, no, I really like want to do this. And it was a struggle. And fast forward, I mean, 5 years of my life of just like, I literally like basically lived off of peanut. We have a local place called Stewart's around here. It's like a coffee shop, gas station, and I literally lived off like peanut butter sandwiches from Stewart's and like a little coffee. And I had a car at the time that couldn't go on the Northway, couldn't go on like the interstate because it would shake so bad, fall apart. So I'd have to take back roads to all my clients for like forever until I can afford a vehicle. So anyway, so that's like the skinny of how I started working with dogs. And you know, just like it was crazy.
Hey, can I say this from the jump? So here's something, and I'm mentioning this because I think that this is important for other people to keep in mind, and I'll explain why at the end of this, okay? So, and hear me out clearly. I've always liked your channel and everything, you know? I always was a fan, and we're talking years before me and Brent ever even talked about doing a podcast and all that.
Thank you.
But when we all spoke in person, you know, for those who don't know, we all kind of got together first, like, I don't know, it's been a couple weeks or so now. Then I was like, okay, I get it. Now I already liked everything, but now I'm like, okay, that's why he's so big. It was
man.
Because, and I'm not trying to like blow smoke up here. I'm just, you know, again, there's a point to this, and it was just because I see not only the genuine passion, and I also kind of owe you an apology in a sense, because part of me was like, I can see why you're successful. I get it, but like, fuck, man, that's kind of nice. Like you know, the oldest video I ever saw was like not 13 years old, and I was like, man, damn, he blew up quick. Like, part of me was kind of like, you're definitely deserve it, but also you're lucky. But now that I get the full story of like, you've been trying to run business for like 13, 14 years, that shit is a grind. And for anybody, especially people like, you know, who, because my girlfriend's in college. I didn't do much college. I did college in high school, and then I went straight to the Air Force, and, you know, and that was that. I got the same thing as you. Actually, somebody just asked me just the other day, like, bro, why didn't you just stay in for 20 years and just be done? You know, it was like just the other day, and nobody ever asks me that ever, you know? And I was like, you know, I just didn't want to. I liked it. And I was actually an MP. So I was a cop in the Air Force. But, you know, it's not easy trying to build a business. And there's so many lessons you have to learn. And there's so many like humbling moments, and the fact that it's taken this long, and that you were consistent with the grind. And my point was this, the whole reason I bring this up is to say, people who are listening, people who know of Tommy Davis, people who don't know of Tommy Davis, younger dog trainers, the shit is not easy. And if it's taking a while, stick it out, work on it. Don't be ashamed. There's no shame in your game, bro. I had a fucking car. I have a car like that right now. That bitch overheats. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, by the way, and it was like it's gonna be 115 tomorrow. And my car is not happy to do that. And like, but the point is, it's all a means to an end, right? I moved here not too long ago. I'm from LA myself, but if you can just kind of grind it out, have no shame in your game, know what you're worth, because I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed this too, Tommy, that people like you and me that have kind of bounced around from place to place, because Brent stayed at one kennel like for a long, long time, which is also good.
That was my college.
Yeah. But people who bounced around, as a young trainer, I have had it before to where I let my circumstances outside of dog training kind of hinder my like belief of myself as a dog trainer. Like I'll pull up to a nice house in LA with kind of like a beater car, and I feel like I look like shit, even though I know what I'm doing. I'm a good dog trainer. I'm a solid choice, at the time, so, but it would still kind of shake my ego a little bit. And maybe I would miss that sale, where now with like a totally normal functioning car, I drive it like a truck these days, that it's like, I just don't, maybe too, because I'm older, I just don't have that issue anymore. I'm like, no, man, if you don't, if you're doing really well in life, that's amazing. But I'll tell you what, I can train the shit out of that dog. So, I think a lot of young dog trainers learn how to stick it out. Don't tie your expertise and your confidence to something that doesn't matter like that, because all this stuff is temporary. Now I saw you in that mean ass truck. My girlfriend and I were talking about that interior of the truck, but it's just a function of grinding it out, and that's super cool. By the way, shout out to my girlfriend. She loves you because you guys share the last name Davis.
Cool.
But anyway, sorry, continue. I just wanted to apologize because you've been grinding for a long time.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight something like the grind, the pursuit for monetary and all that stuff means nothing if there's no intrinsic drive.
Right.
And that story, bro, like got me teary-eyed. Like,
dude, this is the first time I got teary-eyed on a podcast.
Yeah, that shit got me teary-eyed, bro. I have my own story, and I'll tell you in private one day. Hopefully we can grab some beers when you're on the West Coast or I go to the East Coast. But that wanting to help something and feeling you couldn't help it. That's what drives me, bro.
Yeah.
It's my whole career was based off of passion.
Right.
Like even today, like I have a staff because I don't charge people. Like they literally walk out of my facility and my manager's like, "Did you charge them?" I'm like, "Forgot."
Right.
Like don't care, honestly. Like I just it's it, man. It's like, and not only just like in the dog world, it's just like the amount of, I mean, we could all talk for the shit that we went through, but like, the stuff I had to sleep in, I had to do I just couldn't give up. I'm like, something's bigger, something's bigger. And that was my gut. Even when I was in high school, like walking through the halls, I'm like, this is cute. Like, this isn't, whatever. Right. I knew, like, I wish, and that's life though. I mean, I wish I started working with dogs way before that, but I think, so I struggled really hard. There were so many, hundreds of times where I wanted to give up. And then I was like, but if I give up, then, Roscoe won't get walked or Bailey won't get out or whatever.
You were there for the dogs. You wanted to be there for the dogs.
What's funny though, is you were there for yourself too, because a lot of times when we talk about trying to build a business or just trying to get through life in general, because again, I think our stories are like way more similar than I would have guessed anyway. And, I won't get into all that, but I think that the ability when it comes to building a business, ultimately what it shakes down to is just be relentless and don't look backwards that much to where you're stuck, because analysis paralysis is super real. And I think that it's so important because with you being as big a person as you are, like in the dog training world, I just want to remind everybody, because I've made this mistake a lot personally when I talk to someone like bigger, someone very popular, is don't feel like it's unattainable. Don't feel like it's something special. Like you are very smart, very capable. You totally deserve all of it. And I applaud you for that. But it's nothing that other people can't also do. And I just want other trainers to keep that in mind. Just put your head down and fucking do some work. And there it is.
And grind. Yeah.
And I think it's, there's like the business that, that surrounds the work that I've done and the passion that wakes me up in the morning. In itself, like running a business in itself is hard as hell. Like starting, I think it's like 1% of businesses
survive.
Survive. Yeah, it's something like 2%, but it's crazy. Yeah,
crazy. And so, like, don't if anybody out there is listening, and I do get a lot of messages about like, hey man, how'd you start or whatever. It's like, I started from shit, like from nothing. Right. Nobody believed in me. Everybody laughed at me. I'll never forget handing my friends my business card. I'm so stoked. I'm like, look, Tom Davis, like Adirondack Animal Service, like this is great. Like I'm insured and everything, guys. Like I got my own logo that I made on like, like clip art, like, and I was like, and just like, the laughs, they're like, yeah, dude, you're ridiculous. Like, stop, stop. We don't want to hear about this anymore. Right. I'm like, okay, whatever, cool. But I just knew, so like if you you have to believe in yourself, because nobody is going to believe in you. And one thing I've learned for sure is you can't get big in your backyard. Right. So true. That's huge. That like for me, like my mom, until last year, my mom was asking me when I was going to go back to college.
No shit.
Till last year.
Shit.
She's like,
you're like, Mom, like, okay, do you get it? You don't get it yet, Mom?
It's hard. People just don't understand. Don't understand.
I told my mom. My mom's late 60s, almost 70. And I said, oh, Mom, my podcast is doing really great. And she goes, podcast?
My mom hasn't listened to. My mom probably doesn't know what the name of our podcast is, but it's all good. Like I hear what you're saying. I think that it's important to note that you just have to have belief in yourself.
100%.
But yeah, please continue.